Every successful person got there by going through tough times. Success is a hard-ass teacher who likes to knock you around along that journey. You know, it takes real guts to not give up and keep going. We'll hear stories about failures and how these leaders flip the script to create success. I'm John Schultz. Join me and let's discover how success is never really overnight. So welcome to the John Schultz podcast. You know, we talk so much about business and we're going to hear about an unbelievable business career today, but I'm happy that there's a health component to this. And I've been focused a lot on my health as I've gotten older, but you know, I wish I didn't wait till I was the age I am. And we have today Darshan Shah, who's going to give us all unbelievable feedback on this topic. He's the founder and CEO of Next Health. Next Health are these unbelievable centers that you can go in and get on the road to a much more healthful lifespan, health span. He's a board certified surgeon. He's author of Making the Cut, 10 Things You Consider Before Having Plastic Surgery. That sounds like an interesting book to look into. He's a health and wellness specialist. He's on a mission to help people live an optimized, healthy lifestyle and to minimize the need for traditional disease-based medical care, which we all don't want to have to go down that road. He started his training as an accelerated MD at the age of 15. Oh my God, 15. I don't know what I was doing at 15. I was probably doing something stupid at 15. And he's earned his medical degree at the age of 21. So he is a young starter. And welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me, Jonathan. Really appreciate being here.
This is going to be fun. So, all right, you know, obviously you started out very young, like sort of knowing what you wanted to be and do. But what would you say, and how would your parents describe you then as a young Darshan?
Yeah, I think they would say I had a little bit of ADD, and I went down the rabbit hole in a lot of different topics. I think I had a little bit of natural smarts, but also it was just the tenacity of wanting to see things get done that I think like pushed myself forward. And so, you know, when I found out that I could graduate high school early, I went to school all summer and finished all my courses and got out of there and applied to this accelerated program where I could finish my MD degree in 6 years, including college. And so that involved obviously working every summer in school. And also, we had no vacations and like 30 hours of coursework. But for me, I was like, if you're going to do it, just get it done. And so I just applied myself. And I think a big piece of this also, and you probably subscribe to this too, is like when you're that age, the postponement of pleasure leads to a lot of great things. So I really put off, the partying and the pleasurable activities that most people do in college for a few years. Not to say I didn't have fun. I had a lot of great times, but just applying myself to that.
But what drove you to do that? I mean, did you play sports when you were like, what drove you at such a young age? Because it's unique. This is not, a normal path that most people take. I mean, we're interested in things, but it's usually things that, aren't like where we want to be on a trajectory to our career.
Yeah, I think, what drove me was I grew up, my parents worked their butts off and I saw them working really hard. My mom and dad both had day jobs and night jobs and a business to run and 3 boys to take care of. And I just saw them work really, really hard. And they had emigrated here from India. I was born here. And, it was hard for them. And I just thought to myself, like, I want to make sure that I have a career where I don't have to go through some of the hardships that they went through coming to this country for the first time. And they made it, but it took a lot of hard work. And I saw school and med school especially as my path to kind of freedom,
Wow. So were you clear? I mean, was your parents in the medical field? Like, what made you so clear that you were destined for a medical career, right? Because like, there's so many other things you could choose. Like, why were you so emphatic about that, or were you not?
I think a lot of it, some of it's cultural. I think, in our culture, the Indian culture, physicians are very well respected, and I saw the amount of respect they had. Also, back when I went to medical school, doctors were making a ludicrous amount of money. They're not anymore at all, but they were like some of the highest paid professionals out there. And I loved business as well, but I saw my father and my mom struggling to make ends meet in a business. And I just saw these doctors able to make ends meet with just their day job and do really well. And so I think that had a lot of clarity there. And also I loved science. I love the human body. I mean, I was one of those kids, like at 8 years old, I was making models of the human body and dissecting pigs with my dad and stuff. And so this is a confluence of all those things, you know?
All right. All right. So you're fascinated with the human body. Would you say you were the epitome of what health should be growing up? Did you follow this passion in your own life or not?
So here's the thing. Being a doctor, you're not really passionate about health. What you're passionate about is biology, understanding disease and how to treat that disease. Now, I had a separate kind of, just when you're in your teens, you like working out, you want to look good. So I worked out a lot, but there wasn't a lot of health information about 30, 35, 40 years ago when I was growing up. It was just really, I mean, just, Arnold Schwarzenegger just made lifting weights like a new thing. And so I just lifted a lot of weights when I was a kid. But to answer your question is, after I graduated college and started my career, no, I wasn't a healthy individual.
So what happened? I mean, here you are, trying to figure out how to, be in the medical field and make people healthy. So how far down the rabbit hole did you go the other way for yourself?
Yeah. So what happened was I became a surgeon and I did trauma surgery, general surgery for a long time. And during that time, like if you're a trauma surgeon, most of your work comes in the middle of the night and you're working like every other night. And so I did not sleep a lot. It's very stressful, as you can imagine. And I decided then to kind of further my career. And I went to the Mayo Clinic to get trained in plastic and reconstructive surgery. And then I started a business. I always had like a passion for business. And I opened these surgical centers. I opened the first chain of medical spas in California, which I sold later. I was running this business, hiring surgeons, running this business. And what happened was over the course of time, I was that guy that would wake up at 4 a.m, a little bit stressed out, and I'd just get right to work, and I'd work 14 hours a day. And I got stressed, stress eating, not exercising, not sleeping well. And I became the epitome of like the unhealthy doctor. So I was 250 pounds, I was like 50 pounds overweight, 3 high blood pressure medications, pre-diabetes, having trouble breathing, sleep apnea, like all the bad stuff you can imagine. I found myself in probably the worst state of my health about 10 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and it's funny because like you were so young, right? You think when you're younger at 21, I mean, you started, way earlier than most people even get a chance to do it. And you think your bodies can sustain all that, but obviously that's not the case. So here you are, you got this unbelievable career going and you feel like you're killing yourself. What was that moment where you changed it? And, obviously you were in plastic surgery doing, 10,000 plus surgical procedures at such a young age. What was the moment that you said, oh my God, like I got to change this for myself?
Yeah. So what happened was, I graduated from medical school at 21. And then for 20 years, I did surgery. And I had a 20-year career, basically. And I was still only like in my early 40s. And I got married late because I was just a workaholic, finally met my wife, and we've had our first child 9 years ago. And at that moment, I kind of did the math and I realized like I'm early 40s and my kid's going to graduate from high school, when I'm 60 something. I'm not going to be alive long enough to see this kid get married and, start his life or even meet my grandkids. I'm like, I got to make a massive 180 change in my health because my health is definitely not going in the right direction. And we all know, like, with diabetes, metabolic syndrome, hypertension, a heart attack, or cancer will take you out, at any time with that type of unhealthy living. And so I was like, okay, I'm having my first child. I need to get healthy myself. And that's when I made the mental switch.
So did you stop doing surgery to create Next Health? Like, how did this roll together and what were some of the obstacles? Because, you know, you were so good at it, right? You wake up every day, you sort of know your roadmap, right? I wake up, I got 10 surgeries, I know what I'm doing. It's entrepreneurial in a way that you were always entrepreneurial, being so young and getting to a place so high at such a young age. But now you're going to sort of switch into, a different mode. What were the obstacles in your brain? What did you have to go through to get there?
Right. And like you and I were talking about earlier, is there's never like an overnight kind of switch over that happens, right? So first of all, the obstacles in my mind were, you're right, I had a tremendous career in surgery. I had 6 surgeons working with us at our practice. We had 3 different surgical centers, med spas everywhere. And I could have just kept rolling forward and just doing this for probably forever, right? But I wanted to make a change, and there's a tremendous amount of risk involved in change, right? And so I hired people to help me run the business. I slowly started putting more surgeries on my colleagues that were working with me. And over the course of a year, I was able to get to a point where I was minimizing my surgical and my business management role to the point where I could go and learn myself how to get healthy. Now, the important thing here to realize is, as a physician in medical school, especially back when I went to medical school, you spent maybe a day or two on topics such as nutrition, sleep, exercise. Like, no one talked about how to stay healthy. It was all about diagnosing disease and how to treat that disease with a pill or surgery, right? And Western medicine is so good at that, but what it's not good at is keeping people healthy. So I went to every nutrition course out there, became a registered dietitian myself as a physician. I became a personal trainer. I went to all these courses and classes on exercise and sleep and diet. And then I discovered a field of medicine that was up and coming and brand new called functional medicine. And this is a field of medicine where you're treating disease at its root cause rather than waiting to get to a point where you need a pill or some surgical intervention. And I was like, this is it. This is what I want to learn and do from now on moving forward. So I learned it for myself. I got myself healthy over the course of 8 months, like pretty fast, right? I spent 20 years getting myself unhealthy, and I got myself healthy in 8 months. And, being a typical entrepreneurial mindset, I'm like, this is incredible, number one. Number two, most people don't know about this and how effective this can be. And thirdly, I was going to like all these different places in LA. Like, thank God I was in LA where all these things were available, but it was like all so disjointed. I'm driving around, doing hyperbaric oxygen in one place and then getting IV therapy in another place and getting my nutrition in another place. And so I just wanted to bring it all under one roof in a new business. And I was already kind of talking to patients about this and helping them get healthy before they underwent plastic surgery. This is when I wrote that book, Making the Cut, How to Get Healthy Before Having Plastic Surgery, both mentally and physically. And I wrote that book. I was getting people healthy for surgery, and I'm like, I'm going to start a new business. I'm going to start a business that is focused on optimizing your health and longevity versus, your typical medical practice that is focused on disease diagnosis and pharmaceutical intervention.
I mean, what's fascinating, and people, I think need to hear this, is we get stuck. Like, once you hit a certain level of success, it's almost like you're scared to let it go, right? Yet you may have so much more to offer, and you may want to offer more than you're even allowing yourself to create, right?
Right.
So how scary was that? And were any of the lessons that your parent, like, were there anything that, sort of growing up in that mindset of, because you said money, right? That you doing this was not about money now. It was more about like doing something you really wanted to do. So what do you think the lesson was there, that you could actually be strong enough to make that decision?
Yeah, I think we all kind of inherently know in our mind that when you have a passion for something, you're going to lead yourself down a path of success. You're going to figure it out if you're passionate about what you're doing. And what happened at that point in my life was I was no longer passionate about doing surgery and working my ass off anymore, doing surgery all day long, every day, and running this business. But what I was passionate about was health and helping people get healthy, stay healthy, and really feel vital and energetic, and live in that optimized state. And I was like, I want to spend the next 20 years of my life doing something I'm passionate about, because number one, it makes me happy. Number two, it gives me a purpose, right? And so it was making this mindset shift from living without purpose to living with purpose. And so I think some of that comes from my parents as well, and also some of it comes from mentors. I have a few mentors that have completely changed their life 180, going from one career to another career just to follow passion and purpose. And I just thought, I got to do it. I got to do it just for my mental health.
It's funny you say that. You were living with a purpose. You were just living with your parents' purpose.
Yes.
But then you found your own.
Exactly.
And I've gone through stuff in my life too, where, we grow up, we think we have to sort of always please whoever at that moment in time we think we have to please. And we get good at that, and we end up doing things that we become good at. But, actually finding your own purpose, which it took you to be very unhealthy. Uh-huh. And chaos sometimes creates they say, diamond, pressure creates diamonds, or a word I don't want to say on a podcast, right? So I'm happy you did that, and you look great, and you're spreading so much amazing information. But a question I have, because this is where I think I get stuck, you spent 8 months getting yourself healthy. You focused only on that every day. You figured out how to, put everybody else on your cases and whatever you had to do to keep your business going. How do you create a balance when it comes to this that actually can work for people that also want to be really, focus on their business, but also obviously want to create a health span that makes sense?
Yes, absolutely. And I talk about this. You don't need to take 8 months to get healthy, because I just took 8 months because I was out there learning and trying to synthesize the information. But what now I do with my patients, I tell them is that, number one, you have to realize that the healthier you are, the more successful your business will be, because you're going to go to work energized, ready to go, ready to attack the day. You're focused, and you're able to tackle the challenges of the day without getting into a stressful state, which then makes you less productive. So there's massive benefits to being physically healthy in your business life. Secondly, I tell them there's 20% of the information that will give you 80% of the result with health and wellness. So you don't have to quit your day job. You just have to put into place routines and habits that you follow mostly consistently, that will lead you down the path of optimal health over the course of time. And just realize it's going to take some time, but it's not super difficult. And there's a few things that you have to do to make this happen.
So, okay. So you did that, and now you have Next Health, right? This is what the passion created, right? This Next Health, and there's centers. I know you have one in New York, right? You have a couple in LA. How big are they? What makes them up? When you go to a Next Health, what are you expecting, and what does it serve?
So it was a challenge when we first opened Next Health, because we were like defining a new category of medical business, right? There's no such thing as a doctor's office where you go to optimize your health, really, unless you have like a concierge physician. And even them, they don't really do that. They focus on, treating coughs and colds and diseases. So we were reimagining healthcare from the ground up. And so what I did was basically whiteboarded all the things that's wrong with medicine right now. Disease focused, doctor spends 15 minutes with you. The doctor's offices are uninviting. They're hard to get to. You have to wait for an appointment. So what we did when we created Next Health was flip the model on its head. Now what we created were these 3,000 to 4,000 square foot centers where you can go You can walk in. We're in highly trafficked areas. We have 3 centers in LA, 1 in New York, and we're also in the Four Seasons in Maui. And you go in, and it looks beautiful, super high tech, looks beautiful. We have all the like biohacking equipment there, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, cryotherapy, heat sauna, LED beds, an IV lounge. And you can go in there at any time and take advantage of these technologies. But then the main thing that we do is we will draw your biomarkers. So that means drawing blood, taking a genetic sample, and also scanning your body. And our physicians sit down with you and create a health optimization plan, not just around nutrition, sleep, and exercise, those 3 main pillars that we all know about, but also around your hormonal health, your gut health, your cardiovascular health, your immune system, and helping it fight cancer, and how to detoxify your life. And over the course of, we do memberships. Over the course of your membership, you'll learn how to put these things into action in your own life, so that over the course of time, you will optimally get healthy and turn back the clock of disease. We're trying to get people off their prescription medications. And so,
right. So here you are creating now something new, something that's not mainstream, right? I mean, all the innovation and technology is allowing us to actually at least learn a little bit more about all these different therapies and the way that, you can go about staying healthful and fighting disease. But like, you're going up against a whole grain of a new, of an old system. So what have the challenges been, and what do you hear from people on, this process?
Right. So the challenges are, number one, like everyone's like, what is Next Health? Like, what do you guys do here? So like really explaining the story of what is a health optimization and longevity center. So we do a lot of things like what we're doing today, like podcasts, educating people, really sitting down with them and letting them understand, like, we're the place for the 95% of people that are healthy, that want to just get healthier. And if you're sick, we will help you get better, but that's what the Western care medical world is for. So number one is telling the story. Second challenge is, I think people sometimes assume that just because we're doing things that are in the health world, that it might not be scientifically proven. And we show people the science. Like this, everything that we do is not only scientifically validated, but it's also been used in the Western care, disease care world for like decades. We're just bringing it out to optimize your health. Like, why wait till you're sick to use this stuff? So
Right.
yeah, so we show people the science. We show them that these therapies work, this advice works, and then people get their head wrapped around and they start going down the path, and it's amazing to see, like, with our diagnostics capabilities that we have, we pre-diagnose disease 20 to 30 years before you get into a disease state. Diabetes, heart disease, even cancer, we can pre-diagnose. Cancer's biggest enemy is being diagnosed as stage 1, I always say. And that's our goal, to diagnose it before you even become symptomatic. Whereas Western care diagnoses it after the symptoms come about. By then,
so where else in the world does this care happen? I mean, like you say Western, right? Is there other areas of the world that uses this more as a model, or is it just sort of,
I think that we're lucky in the US that we are, a lot of times we are kind of on the cutting edge of things. So I think, the US is definitely blazing the path here. However, there are definitely components of this throughout the world. And, you see a lot of like health retreats, health spas, etc. And now I was just in Switzerland actually, and went to one of these places that have put an MRI scanner in, put a CAT scanner in, and now they've created kind of this type of model in their world. So it's really interesting to see this kind of getting pushed out there. But I think this new model that we're creating here will be the future for sure.
So how much is technology and like, because I agree with you when you say, like, prove it. Like we were told so many things, right? Like, this is good for you, then 10 years later, it's not good for you. Or eat this and it's good for you, but then we find out eventually it's not. And as a consumer of health and wanting to be healthy, I find it the most challenging thing to actually, figure out. Has technology helped that? I mean, like, are you able to explain it and show it in a way that wasn't here 3, 4, 5 years ago, or has it just been here and we haven't been focused?
So yeah, that's a great question. And I think a couple of things have happened. Yes, technology is increasing and coming at us at an exponential pace. So technology um, is improving more rapidly year to year than it's ever had in the past. And we know that. Now we're using this technology in biology. So biotechnology is now getting better and better and better. And what we're also seeing, though, is a more rigorous and well-proven model of how to actually scientifically validate advice. Okay. And so back in the past, like I'll use this example, eggs, right? Like how many different advice patterns did we get on eggs? Like eat eggs, don't eat eggs, eat the whites, don't eat the yolks, etc. Cholesterol bad, cholesterol's good, all this craziness, right? And that's because in the past, when studies were being done, people didn't do studies in the right way. And what would happen was the scientific community finally figured out the right way to study something is to do what's called a double-blind randomized prospective study, but then also doing multiple of those and then putting them all together in what's called a meta-analysis. So now we look at meta-analysis, the combined power of statistical research of multiple studies.
How long has meta-analysis been available?
It's been available for a while, but because time has to pass for multiple studies to be done with good scientific rigor, we're finally able to now have the data to put together into a meta-analysis. And now,
so is big data and AI, like, is all this stuff that we're, going into and learning about, ChatGPT obviously is more, but it's data sets, right? So do you think that we're actually going to have the ability to have really individualized medicine because like, even though you have your strategy, my body, like I'm different. None of us are the same. Exactly. Right. So we're, one size fits all model sort of been what we've been, used to.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yes, the answer to your question is yes, medicine and health needs to be personalized to each individual. And we do have the capability to do that now. I don't know if you wear like an Apple Watch or an Oura Ring or one of these devices. Yeah, I talk a lot about like continuous glucose monitors, like all of these things can help us individualize our plans for you and your biology and what's happening in your body. And yeah, so we're using data sets to figure out what works for most humans, but then we're using trackers to individualize that advice for each individual.
Yeah, and I only think this is going to get better. I mean, the amount of innovation, from like the Oura Ring or even our watches to all the home tests you can do. I mean, like things that you never could do to be a little bit more proactive is starting to appear everywhere, and it's exciting, right? Because at the end of the day, we've been living longer anyway, but like, who the hell wants to live longer and not feel good or be sick, right? Like, what good is that? But, this hopefully can change that. So, all right. So you got this all going on. This is so good. It's exciting. You got your ups and downs, I'm sure, on, getting these things done. But what I want to give a few bits of information on for the audience is, what would you say are the top 3 things? And again, I know everything's individualized and not everyone's the same. So I'm being clear on that. But like, if you're real busy, what are 3 things you think you should think about for longevity to get going? Like, so you can start on this journey.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question. So I'm going to give you like 3 things that most people may not consider or have big questions about when I talk to them. Number 1, I would say is if you're not focused on optimizing your sleep, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. So in the way you optimize your sleep is, you have to fix your sleep environment and your sleep routine, and you need the data. So using a sleep tracker, the sleep trackers are really good now. I use the Oura Ring, but there's many other sleep trackers out there, the Whoop Band, there's mattress pads you can use as well. Really understanding, not just like you're sleeping 7 hours, which you obviously need to do, but really understanding that you need to spend a certain amount of that time in deep sleep, and then doing all the things like sleeping in a cold, dark environment and seeing how that affects your deep sleep is key. So you don't have to wear a tracker forever, but I would say spend 6 months with a tracking device, get your sleep optimized to where you're getting, over an hour and a half of deep sleep every single night and getting that 7 hours. That's gonna pay off in spades for your
Do
longevity.
you need to go to bed the same time every night? Like, what are some of the things
Yep.
that matter when you're doing this, right? Because like at the end of the day, people's lives are busy, and like if you care about this, you actually have to make it part of what your priorities are, right? So
Yeah. So once again, the Pareto principle. What's the 20% of the information that's going to give you 80% of the result on your sleep? Number one is your sleep environment. It should be like a cold, dark cave. That's what our caveman ancestors slept in. Turn the temperature of your room down to like 65 degrees or so every single night. And then also make sure it's completely dark. So even like the alarm clock light can send a biological signal to wake you up. So get rid of that. And quiet. If you can't get it quiet in your room, or just you're having trouble sleeping, try getting a white noise machine. I've seen that increase deep sleep by 20 or 30%. And then your sleep routine. You said the key thing is, you want to sleep the same time every night, but you want your routine to start an hour before, where you get off your electronic devices, you turn off all the harsh lights in your house, and you just start winding down your brain. Maybe you have a breath work routine. Getting to sleep at the same time is helpful, but also that wind down period an hour before is even more.
does that mean not watching TV? Does that like really? So you
TV. I tell all my patients, take the TV out of your bedroom. It's not supposed to be there. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting. So that's number one. And like, it's funny. Sleep has been so focused on the last 2 years, at least, there's so many new articles written about that. What is number two?
Number two, and this is for, a consideration when you reach your 40s, is get your hormones checked. I don't think a lot of people do that. Both men and women need to get their thyroids checked, their testosterone level checked. And a lot of doctors won't do that until you're really feeling terrible. And you should just do it prophylactically, because most people have some deficiencies of thyroid and sex hormones, and those can be increased naturally, but sometimes people do need biological intervention and also potentially hormone replacement. So both of those things need to be looked at as well.
And number three, here we go.
All right, number three, let's talk about number three. Your gut health is incredibly important. I don't think people understand how important their gut health is. 80% of the serotonin in our body is made in our gut. That's our feel-good hormone for our brain. Having poor gut health can lead to depression and also lead to attention deficit and other mental issues. And most of our immune system is in our gut. That's what's protecting us from the outside environment and causing inflammation when we have too many toxins running through our gut. So how do you keep your gut healthy? Number one is eliminating inflammatory foods. So gluten and dairy causes inflammation for a lot of people, but also the number one thing that causes inflammation is actually processed food. So eliminating processed food, eliminating as much sugar as possible, and cutting back on gluten and dairy will be super helpful. And then prebiotics and probiotics. The most helpful prebiotic that none of us can get enough of in our diet is fiber. Almost everyone needs to supplement with some fiber because we just don't eat enough vegetables now to get enough fiber. And that's what keeps our microbiome in our gut healthy. The microbiome is the trillions of bacteria, viruses, and fungi that live synergistically with us and protect us from the outside environment and keep our gut healthy.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I guess all this is just, part of the journey. I love how, we gave three, like just start with one, like with any business, right? Just start. Like it's never going to be perfect. Nothing's perfect. And you got to actually feel like this is a real journey you want to go on. I know I started and also strength training, right? Like all the things that, actually get you feeling and like whether it's your serotonin moving through your body better. And, we have so much cortisol and stress that, back in the old days, right? It was like a lion may be coming into your camp. Here, it's like a deal's going bad. I didn't get what I want. Like we cause so much cortisol to flow through our bodies all week long.
Right.
So, even like meditation, I guess, is also another way to sort of get yourself more centered. But
Yeah, Jonathan, what most people don't understand is stress is actually a good thing for your mitochondria. Stress actually gets your mitochondria stronger. But the problem with stress is when it is sustained stress and you have that cortisol release. So taking a break is key. So if you are a busy professional, you're working at your desk, doing deals all the time, every 45 minutes, if you take just 5 to 8 minutes to just walk around and reset, you're never going to let your cortisol get too high, and you'll protect yourself from the negative effects of stress.
I've been doing that. I'll pace around, I'll walk, right? I actually have it programmed into my watch. Just to remind me that, it's time to stand up. They have programs built in that actually you can set yourself. And it just because sitting's not good, right? I mean, sitting sedentary is not good. It's just not good for ourselves. But so where do we find these? So New York, LA, where can we find more about you? Do you have LinkedIn, Instagram, do you have websites?
Yep. So go to next-health.com and you can see our locations in Midtown New York. We have West Hollywood, Century City, and Studio City in LA, and many more coming. We're also in Maui if you happen to be there. And then about me, I have an Instagram. It's at Darshan Shah MD. And also the same thing at LinkedIn. You can find me there as well. And my website is drshah.com. So there's a lot of different places to find me. And I try to post like all these little tips on Instagram, one or two every week. So you can find me there and get these tips as I make videos on them.
Well, and we all know nothing matters if you're not healthy, nothing. It doesn't matter whatever else you're doing. Steve Jobs only had so much time here on this planet. Imagine if he was here another 25 years or others, Einstein. I mean, we can go on forever. Yep. And as a society with so much change, the more we all can add to it and stay healthful and strong and vibrant, the better we're all going to be as a society. So this is something to focus on. I want to thank you for being on. I know your time, you have a lot going on and appreciate it. And I know everyone's going to love this podcast.
I love it. I'm so happy you had me on, and I truly appreciate it. And anything I can do for you personally or for any of your listeners, I'm happy to try to help. Thank you.